That's fine.
All right. Hello,
I
everybody
should
out
probably
there,
say hi to the chat room
and
too.
welcome to today's episode of Live Feature Rant, episode 44 here into the future. We're actually going to be looking at a little bit more of the stuff from the blueprint. We talked about some last week and didn't really get through all of it. And then on top of that, kind of talking about some of the team ups that just wrapped up on Sunday and saw some amazing stuff. Even participated a bit myself, so some good
Nice.
stuff there. And of course, joining me, some awesome folks today. Starting clockwise from the upper left, Veluux, why don't you give everybody a little
Having a
piece of what
bash.
you're about?
Hello, everybody. You guys might be familiar with me from other shows. I'm on with the legendary Neurotoxin here at Theory Forge. We do that on Fridays, but other than that, I write for EQ Hammer and 10 Ton Hammer, and have a new column that I started on 10 Ton Hammer last week, and I've been doing that twice a week. So I think the third one just went up this morning, so you can go check it out. Um, it's kind of fun. Sometimes I get into deep topics, which if you know me, that's kind of how I roll sometimes. And then I like to break it up and do some light stuff, so make it a little entertaining as well. So, but that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Awesome that. And Reverend Kremchek, then, what about you?
What's up? Reverend Kremchek here. You can follow me on Twitch at Kremchek, twitch.tv/Kremchek, Twitter at Kremchek21, and just come hang out and have fun. That's all we do is have fun. So, yeah, we're pretty cool.
Yep. And I'll plug my stuff at the end of the show. Adam, why don't you let everybody
Yes.
know what's going on with you?
Hey, everybody. Hey, chat room. People are complaining we didn't say hi to them. I said hi. I typed it in the chat room to make sure I wasn't logged in as a Justin fan. But I'm a podcaster. I do some YouTube stuff. If it matters, I've got a new audio podcast that's going to be probably going public next week. So check that out. And I'm going to be homeless in January. So for those who don't know, I'm moving. For all you regular folks that hang out in the chat room and all that fun stuff, I am getting on a plane December 29th and going to California to try and reboot my life out there. So I hate to be a beggar, but I've got money saved up and all of that. But it turns out that the friend I'm going to go stay with is not going to be available, or at least not have room for me until probably the end of January. So I'm looking at having to fend for myself for a month. And with the money I have, I'm going to burn through that real quick in California and in LA. And so a couple of people had suggested, why don't you go start a GoFundMe, and a couple of folks have already been nice enough to throw some money into that. So if you like what I do with Nero and you've enjoyed me hanging out and making an ass out of myself every week, now would be a great time to return the favor. Uh, that way I can continue to do a podcast while I'm crashing at a hotel. So if you go over to gofundme.com/AdamBed, ADAMBED, there's an explanation of what's going on, why I'm kind of panicking, why there wasn't more planning involved with me going to LA, and what the situation is. And if you can throw a couple bucks in, it'll go a long way to helping me out. And what I think I'm going to end up doing, I haven't announced it publicly there yet, but if folks are interested, I have a book coming out at the end of January. I will gladly give people free copies of that. If you do the ebook thing, I'll send you an ebook. If you do a physical book, I'll send you a physical book. So I would appreciate it. Like I said, it kills me to have to have done this, and believe me, I'm getting flack from my parents already about it, as I saw it on Facebook. But it's not like they helped out or gave me a whole lot of notice. So there you go. That's my pitch. And like I said, anything you guys can do would be greatly appreciated. But otherwise, I'm happy to be here to talk Landmark.
And EverQuest next, because they are
Mm-hmm.
both on the table. Of course,
Yes,
always,
they are.
always. It's even though
Yeah.
there's EverQuest Next and there's Landmark, and there is no longer EverQuest Next Landmark. They're two separate,
There's,
two
yep.
separate names entirely, but they're still so connected. At this point, it's really hard to not talk about them both at the same time. And honestly, it's really hard to not talk about all of SOE's games when we're talking about
Mm.
this stuff in general. Um, One thing
And
that
speaking of other games and Zoe games, I know you guys must all be incredibly excited. They finally announced early access for H1Z1.
yep.
Now,
Yeah.
I'm not super into the zombie thing at this point and the permadeath, but I know a lot of folks have been looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be, for me, it's going to be a lot of the fun of being in there, breaking it while it's still easy to break, and just laughing
Mhm.
about it and having a good time, and then explaining every now and then that's going to be fixed. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
Because that's I think one of the things that people will see a game that's broken, and if the person doing the video is saying, "Oh man, this sucks, this is terrible, it's so broken," it has a completely different impression than the person saying, "Oh, they'll work on it. It's a work in progress still."
Hmm.
But yeah, H1Z1, super excited about that, and that's actually one of the games that I'm sure we're going to be starting to talk about a little bit more because they've now kind of shown us a further progression of how they're approaching, releasing games and getting access to the players.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
PlanetSide 2, it was basically like, you know, still late prototype, like alpha, like way alpha tech test even they'd initially called it when we first got our hands on it. Then it was about a 6 month beta, and when it launched, it didn't feel like a game that was ready. It was a year later that they finally did a mass optimization to make sure everybody could play it. It took a long time for the game to be at a point where everybody could, really enjoy it the same way. And unfortunately, at that point, a lot of people came and went, and a lot of the hype and everything, really built up and died off. So they maybe learned a little bit better with Landmark to kind of temper their expectations, do a little bit of spreading the word here and there, but mostly knowing that the major thing that they're planning to advertise out of it is EverQuest Next, not necessarily Landmark itself, until Landmark is ready to kind of be its own thing. Oh yeah, that's another good thing. They're going to be using it's different AI tool. It's similar but different. But I guess what we're going to be seeing with H1Z1 is that they waited till they had a vertical slice of completed gameplay in a small area of gameplay, which obviously trying to compare that analog to Landmark, it just doesn't work because Landmark is basically rebuilding the Forge Light engine with the entire voxel system built into it, and that's a completely different consideration than H1Z1 is basically PlanetSide 2 with AI and a larger space for gameplay, and inventory systems and some more stuff that's a little bit more complex, and some of that might transfer back to PlanetSide 2 at some point. There's still definitely interplay between those two products, as they've said they're not going to be doing a H1Z1 on PlayStation 4 until PlanetSide 2 is on PlayStation 4. So if that's any way to gauge things, if they're ever planning to have Landmark
Yep.
on PlayStation 4 or EverQuest Next, it would still have to be after PlanetSide 2 is on there, which I thought it was already on. The fact that it isn't, it feels like it's kind of taken a while.
Yeah.
Little gnomes coming to attack Kremchek.
Yes.
So, the team ups, some super amazing stuff. It's not just the fact that we got to participate in something that was a really a really short cycle of a process. Like, for when they started the team ups and when they wrapped it up was really short and really concise. They gave us, basically the knowledge for what we need to do at the very beginning, so there was no ambiguity, and it was pretty much like, no, we're not telling you to build to a style guide. We're just saying make something that works, that's going to fit into the caverns, and submit it. And if it's not a piece of crap, we're going to put it in. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going in. You're not getting some like
Nice.
first place prize or anything. You're not getting a skeleton costume, but that's fine. It's totally fine. And I actually, one thing that I'm wondering, and I don't know if we've gotten confirmation on yet, is basically about the what was it? Never mind. I'll come back to that later. So I've been blabbing for a moment
That's a good
here.
point.
With the cavern stuff. Oh yeah, it was if you'll actually be able to know who's places you come across in the caverns, or if you'll have like a little log book that you can reference, almost like a Rosong Junior or whatever, so you know what builds from who that you've actually interacted with, interfaced with,
Yeah.
throughout the course of gameplay. The real lover. You should watch The Big Lebowski. There's a scene in particular I think you would really enjoy. If anybody knows the movie pretty well, they probably know what scene I'm talking about. Anyway,
Totally the most random, off-topic comment I think I've ever seen in the chat room.
yeah, well, somehow he and Baby Swoops got on the subject, so fun stuff, fun stuff. So I guess of the team up stuff, is there anything in particular that you guys are hoping to see? Is there anything that you guys worked on that you submitted?
I haven't worked on one. I'd still like to. That's it.
It'll be for the next round, I guess, because they just ended on Sunday with the entries.
I don't even care about getting into that. Like, I just want to build something cool.
Oh.
For like something that they're doing, just to have.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll have a holiday build thing.
Yeah.
I like the format that they did for this one, with it being so short, and they probably did that a lot because of wanting to get it in for caves, which is actually one of my favorite parts about it. It's like they had this competition, and it's not like we're gonna be waiting forever. We're gonna get to see and play with this stuff like right away. Especially with they started adding in. I don't know when it was that they did the updates for some of the weapons and gave a little bit more destructibility to what you can do to the world. So that'll be fun in the runes to fight in there and be destroying the runes even more. I'm pretty excited to get in there and mess things up.
For sure.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of the fun of it. It's people coming through there with dynamite trying to find other paths to get through. Or, I guess another thing would be using dynamite or other means to see what kind of hidden messages and stuff people stuck in a solid, thick wall of material, like little drawings or messages or something they put in there. I don't know if anybody did that. I didn't do any of that myself this time around, but maybe next time. All my stuff this time was one was transparent and the other one was basically 1 voxel thick in most places, so I didn't really have room to do those kinds of shenanigans.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see people hiding stuff in there or doing secret passages. I did have one that I was almost gonna. I just didn't have time to age it and work on it, but I had an old dwarven rune that had like a secret passage, and I was gonna actually seal it off. That way, people would have to actually destroy stuff to find like the underground part of it, like a little small room with something hidden in there, or something entertaining.
That'd be pretty cool. Hell yeah. Adam, did you see any in particular that jumped out to you, like in any screenshots or any of the videos or workshops or anything?
Of what? The monster build?
No,
or the
team up stuff.
No, I honestly, this past week has been a bit crazy for me, so no, I haven't seen any of the team up builds.
Understandable. I would say probably the one that was the most creative that I saw was the one that Cools did. It's this gigantic floating, teleporting refinery structure thing that is taken over by some giant alien creature that is then reproducing with these weird gold-looking egg sack things. It's pretty awesome.
That sounds crazy.
Like that, and I don't want to say it loses points because it's a more conventional sort of thing, but something I would say is equally as awesome, just maybe not quite as striking from a distance, was I think it was Devent's, either Dragon Sage or Rune Edge is the character that he uses in game, had a really awesome 3-claim long structure that also was taken over by some sort of freaky organic thing, and it had this giant heart in the middle. It looked amazing. It looked like the sort of place that you go into, it's like, I don't think I'm geared enough. Bye-bye. Just well done. Super well done. Yeah, there he is. I'm pretty... That was you, wasn't it? Hey, Spider Oz, how's it going? Spider Oz is one of the many people who worked on the starter templates, by the way.
Oh, very nice.
Doing a lot of the cleanup stuff, so
So cool,
much
yeah.
appreciated.
I've used some of those already. Not for anything, I just laid them down, but still.
I use them for those glass cryopods that I put the pies in. If anybody
Cool.
saw the cryogenically frozen pies tweet a couple of days ago, that was fun stuff. So
Yeah, I saw that one.
there's actually a lot of stuff that can be done with those. I realized that there was a lot of utility to them, but having actually played with them a little bit, it just makes the process of working so much quicker. The one kind of almost weird downside to it, though, is you almost have to commit some amount of space to your templates, your workshop area. So it's either you're doing the lower half of the build and your templates are up in the upper half, or you've got just a complete separate template workshop area somewhere off in the corner or something. Whatever it is, it's something that it's really convenient, but unfortunately it does take up space. Somebody had the idea of being able to put templates on your hotbar, and I could see that would actually be great if you could do templates or even like smaller copy paste sort of clippings to just have them on the hotbar to be able to use them and access them as you need to. But they can work on that stuff over time. Right now they just had the process was still getting all of the features in working right for the first versions of them. They can do all the fancy stuff later. That's they've got all the time in the world on this project. Swoop sounds.
Yeah, I think that would not be too hard to do, to take basically like, when you have your template window open and then you've got all your list of templates and then you have the button that says, like place or whatever. If you had a way to just like drag and drop that to your hotbar, and it would have, you could assign an icon, kind of like games do with
That'd be
macros.
cool.
You can make your own macro in game. That would be cool to see them do later in Landmark with any template that
Was it
you want.
just
If you're
was it just me, or were the templates not the starter templates not showing up with images?
I I don't think they were actually. Now that you mention
Because it made it very confusing. Like you actually had to pull it out to see what it was, because it was like RS curve LMT 21. It's like, I don't know what that means. So you can't see the image, so you actually had to pull it out and to even see what you were looking at there.
Oh, the curves you're talking about is quarter discs from 21 to 30 voxels, one thick. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's maybe a little confusing, but no, I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's kind of funny because they're quarter discs. I pulled out the I think it was the 40 to 50 because I was planning to do something that was 40 to 50 wide, not realizing, holy crap, this is 4 times bigger than I need it to be. After I finally put it together, it's like, wait a minute, that's not right.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird. I think it would be cool if they'd added the images. I don't know why they wouldn't.
The Baby Swoop Siren song going on back there, trying to lure the sailors to crash on the shores.
Exactly. She's just trying to kill you with adorability.
Yeah.
She came in here saying, "I broke a wise man. I feel really sad." So
Oh, that's awesome.
she broke the head off a wise man.
It happens to the best of us.
No, the proper response is boom, headshot.
There you go.
All right. So, the blueprint is awesome because it's continuing to keep us up to date on things that are planning to go in, though as we know, none of the dates are like okay, my favorite comment is you promised such and such date. They didn't promise anything.
Yeah, no, it says very clearly, like, at the top or at the bottom. I'm not looking right now, but everything is subject to change. The game is in development. Nothing is guaranteed. So, like right now, we're all waiting for we're getting a huge update next week, supposedly on the 15th. Now, this really is going to be the update that adds in like pretty much the majority of all the little things, like the things we're missing that we're expecting in the game, and they canceled Landmark Live today because they're in crunch mode and they're like, yeah, I've seen comments from like Felgon. These guys have been like at the studio working 11, 12, 1 in the morning. I'm not entirely convinced the publish on the 15th is either A, going to happen on the 15th, or it will have everything that they want to be in there. Unfortunately, there's so much going on in this. I mean, it was wishful thinking, I thought, when they said, oh, this is everything that's going in on the 15th.
Well, when they said the 10th, then the 17th, and then they just said the 15th, the 17th still hasn't even been mentioned since then. I don't know what the hell happened to that. But what I'm thinking about with this is Monday is a shitty day to deploy if anybody's taking any sort of weekend. So if they're still planning to deploy on the 15th, that means they are working through their weekend, 100%, still, full on grind status. But
which makes sense, because if they put it on the 15th and they got some, this fix, that fix, blah blah blah, they should still be able to get out the door and enjoy a week and a half, 2 weeks of we're with our family, we're off, we're not working, and then when they come back, it's crunch mode again. But I'm sure if I was working there and that was the situation, I would totally be okay and understand and accept that we're going to be busting balls for the next couple of weeks to get this out, because you got a vacation kind of sitting in front of you after that.
Well, that should be what you expect when you work in that kind of industry anyway, is that you're during crunch time, you just work until you drop, basically.
Yeah.
And then you're probably just going to drop at work and wake up and start working again.
See, that was the problem with THQ and EA and Activision and all those companies that had trouble with the illegal hours with the QA testers, and some of them got sued for it. They should have just made them salaried employees and then be like, all right, you're responsible for this project. And also, crunch time. Sorry, you're salaried. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because for us, it was basically like, 84 hours a week or something that we're, at the studio. Something ridiculous like that. And that's like, there's only 168 hours in a week.
Well, like 2 games over the last couple of years I have watched development of, obviously it comes up enough. Star Wars The Old Republic, I was pretty, invested in that during beta and all of that. And also I'm paying attention to little Star Citizen. And already there are people at the Star Citizen studios that are like sleeping under their desk because they're there so much. I've seen that happen in like videos and stuff. So, and I know that was going on with Star Wars The Old Republic. They were really burning the candle at both ends to make that release date, So, yeah, I mean, it's it sounds like slave labor sometimes. And yeah, I know like the EA situation with their testers, and testers is like an entry-level position. It's not always the most glorious thing. It can be boring. And I get that there's something going on with that, but at the same time, you work in the goddamn game industry and you're making a game. I can see why people would pour 60, 70, 80 hours a week into the job. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, it still beats, flipping burgers at McDonald's, I would think.
Hey, we pour 60, 70, 80 hours a week into playing the games. They should put that
Absolutely.
into making them, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And, it's the sort of thing, because at the same time, like, it's still a business at the end of the day. Yeah, there's still the fact that there's kind of the starving artist aspect, and it's, you're doing something you love, but no, you like, bills got to be paid. It's and then when you've got crunch time and those sorts of considerations, it starts to become a weird sort of thing, because like, well, if I was paying the person what they're worth during the normal time of the year, then the amount of extra money I got to pay them during crunch time is ridiculous. So, it's this kind of unfortunate thing, because, no company is going to guarantee overtime one way or another. So it's one of those things, if it's something that they have in the game plan that they're probably going to put you guys in crunch time at some point, it's a weird situation. Yeah, I don't know. I've done the crunch thing before. It's meh.
Davins has a question here that I was actually curious about as well, but I don't know if anyone knows. When Dave tweeted out something, I think it was in a response to Corona. I don't know who isn't. Kronos? I don't
Oh
know.
wait, no, you're talking about Krona. Yeah, I thought you were talking about Kronos for a second. No.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was in
Krona.
response to him, and he said that there was a little surprise that was coming. What do you guys think that is? There was a little
Mm,
thing special, and he
My
said we has a surprise.
my immediate guess would be, the different armor and weapons they might be able to like drop in a couple, like one or two extra ones to there, or when it comes to the monsters, obviously, like they said that it's going to be different than just what they've shown us so far, so that
I'm
could
gonna
be a surprise
bet.
depending on how big they go with
Yeah,
those.
I'm gonna guess it's the gunslinger outfit.
I'm going to bet that it's the story bricks control stuff coming with the ability to actually use the monsters. They haven't talked about the
That would
story
be
bricks
huge.
and being able to interface with it in a while, but they initially did say, and they just talked about this on Evercast show, that when they give us monsters, the plan was also to give us the ability to put them on our claims and give them,
Mm-hmm.
all the personality and all of that stuff.
Hmm.
So that's why I'm thinking, and they've done that before, where they said something was a big secret or a surprise when it was totally something that they had talked about before and then just shut up about for a few months. So it could very well be that. That's A, that's my guess, and B, that's really what I'm hoping for. Monsters in the world is great, but having monsters that I can put on my claim, that's even better. Then I can actually start
Yeah.
making encounters.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be beast. But talking
Yes,
about
I agree.
how we're saying that we
Yeah,
don't
go
think
ahead,
that they're
Kremchek.
gonna. Yeah, we're talking about how we don't think that they're gonna finish everything that they've told us. Is that really gonna come with it at that point, or do we think that that can?
It just depends on how far along the system is and how much extra stuff. If it's just like waiting on the UI guy to see if he can get all that stuff together before giving it to us or not. It could be something simple. Be something very simple.
Well, they definitely
Yeah,
they
I guess
definitely
so.
couldn't have given players monsters to put on their claim before they gave you monsters in the world, because there would have been a lot of WTFing.
Right.
Yeah,
And
Absolutely.
you're right. There's an idea. Maybe that. I mean, it's a good guess. There's some logic to it. Again, though, there's so much in this. In what we're like, there's so much game changing stuff supposed to be in this next patch. Do you really think they're throwing the Storybrooke stuff in on top of it? For the
Well,
builders?
they'd said that it was something that was going to come with the monsters, and every time I've talked to Jeff Butler in person, he was so excited about, like, oh yeah, and when you've got access to the monsters, you'll be able to just open up the brain and just pop in all the behaviors and just do whatever you want to do with them and just have fun. So, well, maybe not quite like that, but maybe less gesturing and maybe not quite as excited because he's kind of a reserved fella in that respect. But no, he was about as excited as he usually gets talking about stuff, and he also showed us a bunch of voxel brushes that this was Diggs and I that he chose to, a bunch of them that never even existed. So that could also be it. Is voxel shapes, voxel brushes of all sorts of weird forms. Like there's one with an inverted corner that they showed us, or that he showed us rather. That it was just a little list he was showing on his phone, and it's like, wow, those are awesome. That'd be totally cool to have those. So if we're getting those, that's great.
Portivar is saying in the chat room that it's probably a new PvP game types.
It could be, and if it is, like, I'd rather have a racetrack and be able to put down checkpoints.
The only
That
thing
would
I
be
would
cool.
see if it's different PvP game types coming with monsters would be some type of, wave defense mode to add to where you have, monsters spawning to create a new game type where people are like survival mode or
like a
something like
Zerg
that.
survival mode. Yeah, that's actually a very good idea.
So that people can start making their Dota-style MOBAs starting in January.
Exactly.
Yeah. I wonder how high that is on their priority list of giving us the ability to design Dota-style MOBAs and all of the systems and everything associated with them. The turrets, the spawning mobs, potentially mob enhancements, the jungle zones, the kind of in-between areas. All of that sort of stuff. It'd be interesting to see what we're going to be able to do with that stuff. I'm sure they're going to want to give it to us. It's just I don't know how high up the priority list, because that's basically, that gives the players the ability to create their own esports in Landmark, and if somebody's successful with it, they're going to promote the hell out of it. So,
Right.
be pretty interesting to know.
I think if they're adding PVE or like that PVE control like that, then I know I'm going to be redoing my claim. And I'm sure that a lot of people are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
One of
Well,
the
we're
most
all getting nuked soon, so you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Probably January we're all getting nuked.
Within a
January,
couple
February,
months
anyway.
at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the most interesting things about Landmark is the type of potential it has, because once you start getting further down the line, we're really early still, but a year from now, when they start really adding to the systems and what you can do with it, it's going to be crazy to see how much replication people can have as far as creating different types of games within Landmark, like MOBAs and stuff like that, because that's really what sets this game apart from anything else out there, other than I would say Minecraft, but that's a totally different beast, just because you can mod it and create your own custom everything. So, but it'll be interesting to see how early we start getting stuff that allows us to really do that, because like right now, you're starting to see some elements of that with the PvP game tables. People can actually replicate different types of platformers and things like that, but it'll be interesting to see once we start getting more of the AI tools and some scripting stuff, like what people are able to kind of build within Landmark, because that is going to make it, more of a game that reaches a wider audience. It's not just about building or about, MMOing, the typical MMOing, crafting, all those systems. It'll be even beyond that. So I'm really interested to see when that stuff happens and see how much of an audience it actually starts to draw.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. And that's always been the way. With all all games in general, but SOE has always, where the game is at launch versus where the game is at a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, it's just a night and day difference. So, yeah, I kind of, having been a long time SOE game player in one form or another, yeah, I'm definitely very excited to see where the game goes over the next couple of years.
Everybody out there, Star Wars Galaxies.
There you go. All right, drink. There's a drinking game here on the show now, Veluux, in case you don't know. Every time Star Wars Galaxies gets mentioned, you got to take a drink.
Yep. It's been going for quite a while, too.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
This is true.
All right, keep those questions flowing, everybody, and we are going to start looking at the blueprint going into January. Now, this, of course, is everything that they're going to hopefully start getting into in January, plus whatever stuff doesn't make it in this month that makes it into January. So, yep. Murren's got to be vocalized on the show. Can't just be in chat. That'd be too easy.
Yep. Yeah, the chat room doesn't actually get to trigger the drinking game.
Get us all drunk in 5 minutes.
Kremchek, I don't know about
Exactly.
you, but these red warm-up pants from Adidas are actually quite sexy, so I think that would be me.
Oh boy.
So, January, the first one is huge. And by the way, I will give you folks the link so y'all can follow along with us, because that's always a nice thing to do. So, the props as resources. We will remove most props from inventory and turn them into a collection pane, like with resources. You'll go through the world discovering new props, collect them, and then be able to place them without crafting them first.
Now wait a
Yay.
minute. So, well, I don't know how I feel about that.
I'm super stoked.
Yeah.
Well, is this a case of once you find it, you can make it as well?
I think
Or
you
is
can.
it just going to be an item you have to find in the world in order to put it?
I
when you're
don't
playing.
know if we're not going to be able to craft them anymore. What I do know is the main focus of this is that we aren't going to have our bags filled to the brim with
Mm,
props all
okay.
day
All
long.
right.
Now the props will go in their own separate place. So our inventory is specifically for our gear, our tools, our equipment, and I guess maybe some material overflow if you've got 10 bajillion, obsidian or
Mm.
something like I had at one point.
Really? 10 bajillion?
Yeah, they
I
actually
didn't
put
know the
in
game. I didn't know the game supported numbers that
when
high.
it gets high enough that it trips the what's it called, the I can't even. It's got to be like at least a 32-bit integer, and then once it's beyond that,
Mm.
it just reverts to bajillion. So I don't know, what is
I,
that, like 65 million or something?
I would expect us to still be able to craft them even after that change because you're gonna have builders that want to create specific things and they're gonna want to be able to make the things. So I don't see the ability to craft them going away, but it is interesting that we'd be able to go out in the world and collect them because just from a performance standpoint, I'm kind of wondering because I know a while ago, I'm not, it wasn't too long ago, but um, props were kind of an issue, especially when they updated things and they had too many trees going and it was like killing
Mm.
the servers or killing people's computers that were communicating with the server. So I'm wondering how many more props the world can support because I know when they talked about going to full depth caves, that was also another issue. They were trying to get it to not draw what's below ground because of
Yeah.
that very reason, all the
Well,
cave props.
that's the thing, is I don't know that it's so much a prop density thing as a culling thing, to make sure all the props that aren't able to interface with you, that you're not seeing, that you don't have to deal with, just aren't being drawn. I wonder how much stuff, like if it has a sound effect, it still has to process everything even though it's just got the sound associated. So there could be a lot of ways that they just need to optimize the process of drawing them and culling them as needed. And that might be, really all it takes to make it so that we can use, hundreds of thousands of props within a single camera shot and not have any performance loss.
Yeah, that's a big thing for me because I don't want, like, they've been making a lot of progress on the performance. I don't want to see them regress too much. I mean, if they have a
Mm.
big
Yeah.
update that they're doing that might cause it, that's okay. But really, like, combat right now is just it's doable right now in the performance, and they've achieved that. And I would hate to see like it anything take away from that because once we start getting PVE as well, people are gonna want to be doing combat and not just the PvP types. So really, don't want to do anything that's going to hamper performance. But other than that, like I would love to see the props being around the world, going into a cave and finding some old cache of, barrels and things and you can just grab them up and, take them back to your
Mm.
claim. That kind of stuff would be really fun and cool for explorers and, just dungeon diving in general.
Yeah, I'm convinced any performance gains they've made over the last month or two are probably it's going to be a case of 3 steps forward and 4 steps back. Like I suspect there's going to be a real hit when the stuff all goes in at the same time.
The only thing I'm actually really only worried about is when dynamic water comes in. I don't think any of the stuff coming on the 15th is really going to have any negative impact on performance in particular. The caves going to the
Mm.
full depth isn't going to be any sort of an issue because they've already worked on the culling stuff, so we're not going to be seeing and drawing a lot of the stuff far away. And I'm sure they've still got more work to do on that because you can still, kind of see the caves when you're underneath the world, and you're not supposed to be able to, so they've got a little bit more work to do on that stuff, and it'll be really nice once it's all
Remember
set.
too, they showed us when it was at SOE Live this past year. They showed us not just a little glimpse of some early test dynamic water, but they showed us physics as well, and that was another big like we'll wait and see type deal with that because and that's really important for kind of the way that they want to do the world. I could understand if they don't have physics for a while, but it almost seems like something necessary if you're going to have a destructible environment that's not static. You're going to want things that are hanging to fall and so forth. So
Yeah, being able to divert water streams is something they've definitely said they want to be a goal. And I think that's going to be
Hmm.
one of the major things. I think that's actually one of the things that they're probably going to be waiting for as a final feature before they actually go into open beta is dynamic water, because what the hell is the point of the Trailblazer land grab, the land rush, for those first week or two, if you can't go and use that to grab up all the dynamic water sources that you can, and then be a water baron or whatever. Or, I
Yeah.
figure that's what a lot of people are going to want to do. It's either dynamic water at the source, or otherwise finding an inland lake that they'll be able to build their own island in the middle of.
If they're gonna have dynamic water by open beta, they better get working.
Well, it might be a lot further along. They showed us demos of it. It's just something that
Yeah.
they might want to wait on, because it's probably a huge optimization and performance thing. Because
Oh yeah, for
if I
sure.
can see a stream a mile away, fuck, I gotta process that.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we still don't have
Yeah.
lakes and streams though, and much less some like, or we still don't have lakes, much less streams and the ability to form
It's
terraform the water and
water generator
water
is
paths and
really
stuff.
the thing that I'm wondering about. Is there going to be like some node, some item, some prop in the world that water is being generated from? Or is the place where the water is actually originating a non-claimable area? So you can't
Ooh.
actually own the source of the water. You can only own like immediately where it flows down into.
That would be an interesting dynamic if you did have the ability to claim like a body of water that fed a lake or a stream. I could see them letting that happen.
Yeah, Baby Cannon,
Me
you're
too.
right.
I don't see them, barring that off. I was actually kind of surprised that they barred off caves. Like I know, there was reasons behind that, but I honestly think that actually might change in the future too. I don't see, it's so easy to tunnel underground. I don't see how people could totally block off a cave system. It depends really. I guess, caves are really an integral part of the whole accessing the whole rest of the world, but like surface water and streams, I don't see that as being, like essential to core gameplay to, saying, oh, you can't build a claim, because that's an important thing for people that do want to build a claim, like build your, what is it, your mill house with your water wheel, in a river,
Mm-hmm.
just want to do stuff like that.
It just, to me, it depends on how the water source itself is actually being handled. If you are somehow able to claim the area where the water source is originating, what do you get control of? Is there some non-modifiable area on your claim that water is just constantly shooting up out of, and it's up to you to do something with it one way or another? That's the part, and I really wish we had more details on the subject here. This will be something, I guess, next time we get some devs on Theory Forge or on here or something. Who knows?
It would be interesting if they just made it to where you couldn't turn it off. Like you can do whatever. I don't know what you what you would do to string it around or whatever, but there's no way you'd be able to turn it off. That would be funny to see. Different things people would make, like giant fountains or all kinds of weird stuff where they're just water constantly pouring out of.
Yeah. Okay, the dynamic water, if it's drained out, does it heal back? I wonder what would actually happen if you're. I don't know how you'd be able to drain it out if unless there's like a rate that it's being added and a rate that it's being depleted somewhere else. I would imagine it would get to the point where you just cut away this area and you just have this wall of water constantly flowing down, but it's just still ceaseless. I have
I
no
think
idea.
the for being able to drain out a lake, I think would be pretty well. I guess not really easy, but I mean, like if you got to the bottom of the lake and just pulverized down to the nearest cave, like that would probably do it. But how much holding your breath, it depends on what they do with that mechanic for
Oh, I know there's probably going to
underwater.
be water breathing items,
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. It's kind of a
potions,
staple.
equipables.
That's kind of a staple in the EverQuest franchise, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
EverQuest there was it was an earring that you wore, and then that's one of the legendary items in EverQuest 2 that you can. They took a lot of the real classic quests from EverQuest and transplanted them into EverQuest 2. And incidentally, those items are really unique in that if you can't use the item, you can set it as a decorative item, and it's unique that it clearly oh, these are the dwarven boots from the Super Epic Quest line. So, but yeah, I'm sure there'll be underwater. There'll be scuba gear. If they're mixing their genres the way they have been, there'll be underwater scuba gear for
I'm
you.
sure there will. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
jumping up on the, in the January blueprint, it says too, the new environments we're going to be getting: deciduous, volcanic, and ocean. And I would imagine if they're going to take the time to create a custom ocean biome, that they're going to want people to be able to see it. So I would expect.
Now here's the
definitely
question.
some
Here's the
water
question:
breathing.
Can we indeed build a battleground underwater so you can reenact the battle at the end of Thunderball?
You can build underwater right now, yeah. In the over in the ocean area, you can build and do stuff underwater for sure. I haven't seen anybody do it, but that doesn't mean it isn't possible.
I know. I was. Just
I
being
actually
silly.
built underwater when they first, what was it? Not first after water came in, but it was sometime after that. I started finally laying down claims again, and I made this, underwater cave system with my dwarven arch kind of sticking out halfway out of the water. It was pretty cool, but that was definitely the most weird thing to do, was to be building underwater. It was convenient to be flying, but anytime you were doing things like where the water surface was, it was really irritating to get in and out of the water, and the camera angle changing.
Yeah, you had to grapple to get underwater.
Yeah, and at one point too, you couldn't even grapple if you were in the water. It was like there was a bug at that time. It was so weird.
Yeah, I remember having to jump out of the water to grapple through. That, yeah, definitely. So it's some silliness there. Um, I guess since we've started moving on a little bit, was there any last stuff on the props as resources that anybody wanted to say? There is one last thing I kind of want to touch on with it, is the idea that I don't think they're necessarily making any more props in the world than we already have. I think it'll be the same density. It's just there's a lot of stuff that initially wasn't interactable at all. Over time, more things became more interactable. When we got the scythe, that made a lot more plants interactable than we used to. But there's still a lot of them that it's just you get plant fiber and that's it, and it's kind of lame. So I could imagine a lot more of them that maybe it's that we collect the props out in the world, and then we bring them back to a station or whatever, and that might be part of the refining system as they had previously described it, that you just bring a whole tree back and then you throw it in the wood chopper and you get your processed wood from it.
Well, that's just it. I think a lot of these things, like your workbenches, your chairs, whatever the deco items are, right? The problem, they're not just gonna be sitting out in the world. They'll be loot. They'll be loot items. They'll be things that drop from the mobs. They'll be things you find in chests. So I suppose in that case, that's not going to have a real impact on, what's going, with the drawing and in the frame rates.
Yeah.
Mine is a little bit off topic, really quick. But the thing that annoys me the most about the inventory system, and you were talking about it a little bit earlier with collectibles and stuff, so that's what kind of got me thinking about it. But is that when we put stuff on, it stays in our bags? Is that something that they've ever addressed?
What do you mean? If you put something on, it doesn't stay in your bag?
Like if you have a sword or an add tool or something like that, I have one on my body and one in my bag, and that's
Well, your
just been the way it's been.
weapons disappear from your inventory. The tools
Maybe
don't,
the weapons
but I
do,
think
but the tools don't. Like, why wouldn't the tools? Like, that doesn't.
I
don't
think that's
like
changing, though, right? Isn't that changing, Nero? Did they
For-
already say that that's going to go away?
I can't remember what they specifically said on it. I know with tools, when you put a tool in your hand, it takes it out of your bag. And I think it creates a weird situation if you collect stuff and then try to put your pick away. I think it goes into overflow or something stupid like that, or it tells
Yes,
you
I've had that happen, actually. I have had that happen. When things have been overflowing and you go to unequip and it'll tell you you're full. It actually, that's what happened. It tells you you're full. It doesn't
Yeah.
actually go into overflow.
So, yeah, that's something I definitely hope that they do, and they might have actually said that they've got some resolution for it, but it is definitely
When I was saying
weird.
tools, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. When I was saying tools, I was thinking of the building tools.
I get you.
Right now your building tools take up inventory, which is bullshit in my opinion. They need to just assign them to your toolbar and then it go away.
That was part of the old progression system. They might bring it back for some silly reason, but initially it was the idea that you have to earn and achieve and go through the tiers to finally get access to all of the building tools.
Yeah.
And eventually they changed it, whether it's a temporary thing or as a permanent thing. As soon as you put down a claim, you get your building tools, and that's that. Personally,
Hmm.
I think that's a better way. I thought it was just asinine to do it where you have to you know earn the tools to be able to build the stuff with. I can't really think of any creating game that I've played where you actually the tools to harvest stuff, yes, but the tools to actually put things down in the world, hell no. Most of the time it's something that's associated with the item itself, like Terraria. You have the block, you put it in the world, that's what it is.
Yeah,
Mm.
the other thing too, like that makes that so crazy is like you're already having to harvest all the materials that you're going to use to build, on your claim. You've got to harvest all the stone, all the dirt, and all that. Like, which is a big deal to some people that don't have time to do all that. That really like to build. I mean, I can guarantee there's probably at least 40 or 50% of the Minecraft population that plays exclusively in creative mode because that's the part they enjoy is actually making stuff,
Hmm.
not harvesting everything to make. And not a lot of people like the survival mode, or they play them different. Like for me, I would play creative mode for when I wanted to build stuff, and I would play survival mode when I wanted to like enjoy the game or play with friends and stuff. So I
Yeah.
definitely see that being a barrier to entry to builders already, to creative minded sandboxers. But having to build to get your tools as well, that's like a double barrier. That's just, I mean, it was terrible in early alpha. I thought it was terrible, and I really hope that they don't ever consider going back to that unless they have a
I
really
agree.
good reason. But I can't even imagine a reason that would be
Well,
good enough.
the thing is, it also gets even worse now. Initially, the only barrier to having access to the things was about what 10 hours, 20 hours of going and harvesting, or less if somebody just gives you the tools. And
Right.
now it would be actually having to go fight through things in the world to find the materials, just the nodes to be able to actually harvest. To find all this, it'd just be a 200-hour process at least, I would think, at this point, for a new player to start the game and have to go through the process and earn an access and get all the tools, especially if they go
I'm okay
by
with that.
the system that they used to have, because there are a lot of higher tier materials that you needed for some of the tools. So you would actually need to be able to go all the way to tier 5, have tools to harvest there, have equipment to actually survive there, to actually be able to find the stuff that you need to make your line tool or your selection tool or whatever. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I agree because I think well, to bring it back, you'd mentioned the Minecraft players. I really do think when the game is in open beta and word gets around, I mean, I've known people who've like, I have no interest. I have no interest. And then as soon as they saw what people can do in the game versus what can be done in Minecraft, they're like, oh, well, I may have to check that out then. Like they're blown away. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of carryover. I agree with that. And you're right. If you put a progression in people's way to start building, it will be, it makes sense to have a progression for PvE and exploring. I'm totally down with that. But it doesn't make sense to have a progression blocking someone's ability to build in the world. That needs to be an open, easily accessible, right out of the gate kind of a thing.
Absolutely. Oh, speaking of building, I forgot to mention earlier, we have another one of our awesome starter contributors here. Metallical also worked on the
Oh,
starter stuff.
excellent.
So,
Yes, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yep,
Welcome, Metallical.
yep, yep. And Dark Wars is the resident boat maker in the community. So, welcome, welcome. Makes awesome ships, and actually two of them were made into ruins for the team up. So I hope those went through. I hope those got in. Just really amazing work. Said they're going to remove tools from the inventory. Where are they going to move them to? A spell book? A spell book.
Yeah, I would think that would be, or something like that. You know what I mean? Like a blueprint or a something like that to get it out of your inventory and it just be tools on your toolbar. Yeah.
Or you can just right click it and say assign add tool, assign, whatever tool.
No.
It could even be a further interface change that they're going to have, that when you select build mode, instead of the the standard interface and everything, maybe the bar just flips to the building tools, or the bar stays to whatever props or whatever you want it to be, and all of the building tools are added as another bar slightly above it, where some of the other stuff is added. There's definitely room to do that without it being cluttery. The one major consideration, though, is still being able to access them with your 1 through 0 keys. I know Dave, he had first said at some point about putting his selection tool on the 1 key, and when he goes on to other people's stuff and 1 is the add key, it always throws him off. So I put the selection tool on the 1 key, and I just like, holy shit, I do use this all the time. This is great. So, the ability to, control what buttons access which of the tools would really help out going forward with this sort of stuff, because that's, I guess, the one consideration I would have with changing up how we access the tools.
Ooh.
I mean, what are we using the F keys for right now? You could even just put them on F1 through F8.
No one uses F keys anymore, and it's funny because when I started playing Star Wars Galaxies, that's where the default controls was the F keys, and I got really used to playing an MMO like a noob with those F keys. And then when they changed the whole game mechanics and they made it the 1 keys, that took me forever to get used to. But I've noticed that most game makers don't use the F keys for gameplay unless it's a screenshot or something like that.
Yeah. I think for me, WoW was 1 through all the way to equals, then F1 through F12, then I think it was either a shift or a control to access all of those secondarily. And then for my stuff on my 3 bars on the right, half of that was my totems, that was all on the number pad. So there was still half my bar that I actually had, or half the stuff that, like, 12 items I actually had to click on if I wanted to access. It's like, well, I'll just put that as the swap out items, my weapons and stuff, like in my helmets and stuff.
Yeah.
But, yeah, a lot of interface to manage.
Exactly. And let's face it, if you get used to playing with the WASD keys, now again, like a goddamn noob, and it's funny because I see people making fun of this in memes online now. When I started playing Galaxies, I was trying to navigate using the arrow keys like a retard, but the number keys, the 1 through equal, is way easier to reach than the F keys, really. So.
Oh yeah, F keys are way out of the way on most keyboards, especially the fancy ergonomic ones.
Absolutely, yeah, and really spaced out, which made it easier sometimes to kind of especially again when you're new to a game, it made it easy to remember where things were, because like I think on most of my gaming keyboards, not all of them, the F keys are broken up by 4s. Like 4 space 4 space 4. And so it was like, these are my basic attacks. These are my healing things over here, and these are, it made it a little easier to segregate out. Then it took a long time to get used to having everything in a straight row with no space to feel what was going on in there,
Yeah. I mean, it's nice just to be able to look at your buddy and, like, hold control, press F9, F10, 11, 12. It's like, all right, you're buffed. Let's keep going. Rather than having to pick through all your buff spells and all of that stuff. So, I mean, there's convenience.
Took a long time for me to master, like, Shift 1, Shift 2, Shift 3,
Yeah. How about you guys? Krem, I know you played a lot of EQs. Did you have a lot of, like, fighting the interface and, like, using the F keys much even? You're a clicker?
I'm a clicker, yeah. I'm still a clicker today. I use the arrow keys. I used the arrow keys until about 2010 or so, maybe 2011. It was a long time, and I fought it. I did not want to go to WASD, but I'm still a clicker, and I'm still fighting it.
I have found EverQuest 2, because I play that on and off occasionally. And again, highly recommended. I know I see folks talking about, I should really try EverQuest. It's so old, you'll have a real time getting through that. But EverQuest 2 really still looks goddamn good. And if you have a high-end system, you can turn on so many bells and whistles that the world is gorgeous. They have so much content, you'll never do it all. And it's such a big world. It's so explorable, But that interface, they throw so many goddamn skills at you that by the time you're hitting your mid-40s, you've got toolbars going down, like 2 or 3 rows of toolbars going down the side. You'll have 3 or 4 rows of toolbars going across the bottom. And it's a lot to manage. It takes a long time to realize I don't really need access to that skill immediately. Like I don't, like to hone in on what you use. But
Right.
that's a problem with a lot of MMOs is just, button overload,
I was talking to
I don't know.
when at SOE Live, I was talking a lot to a new dev on for EQ. Sorry, Veluux. I talked a lot to a new dev on EQ. He had probably been there about a month, and I was getting pretty wasted at the time, and I was just like, listen, what you need to do for EQ is fix the interface, and everyone will play it again.
I remember when you said that. I was there.
Yes, you were there.
And, actually, you do make a convincing argument. If the interface wasn't, like, so horrible to fight through for a new player, I would have played more than 3 hours for the 3 hours I played last year.
I think the real problem isn't necessarily that there's anything wrong with the interface, because it is highly customizable, but you have to take the time to sit there, go through the options, tinker with it. I've got my interface to the point now where most of the stuff on this, like all of my primary, I use these every day, adventuring, are on the middle 2 rows. All this other stuff, things like cosmetic abilities and extra skins for your mounts and stuff like that, that all goes over on the side. And what I've done is I've set it up so that they only appear when you move your mouse over that area. That otherwise they disappear from the screen. So that has helped tremendously. But again, I've been playing the game since it went free to play on and off, taking the very long way around hitting a cap, which I may never actually see in the game. I didn't start doing that till about 1.5 years ago. So I think the problem is there's not enough conservation of your skill set in games like that sometimes. Like, here's a new version of that spell, but it kind of does something slightly different. So it's not an upgrade of the existing spell. It's a different spell. There's a lot of that. And I think that is what's incredibly overwhelming in a game like EverQuest 2 when you get in there as a player. I've seen some people say, yeah, I'm low level and I already feel overwhelmed by all the, the buttons and the things they're throwing at me. It can definitely, and as time goes on, like I said, there's a lot of stuff in there that you're like, I never fucking use that. Like, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah. So what do you think about the EverQuest Next going where you only have a limited amount of abilities to use? Because a lot of people are so against that, but a lot of people
I'm all for
like
it.
that.
I am all for it. I've said this before and I'll say it again. And again, people watch the show every week after week. There is a lot of the design elements and influence from Star Wars Galaxies that I am seeing them talk about in EverQuest Next.
Cool.
Drink. The way they're talking about the skill system, the way they're talking, mix and match. And there's a lot of those elements that I really appreciated from that game that it sounds like they're putting into this game. Secret World does this. They limit you to, I think, 10 items on your toolbar, and that's it. But the whole design of that game is part of the element of leveling and adventuring is you've got a skill wheel that you could eventually completely fill in, but you can only ever load like 8 skills on your toolbar and then like 1 consumable and like 1 buff item. So it's sort of the design of the game is make your build. Here's access to all these skills as you've unlocked them. Now, how do you want to apply that? I think it works very well. And I like that because it really does help you hone in on what is your play style for that role. It makes it a lot better.
Yeah.
People who want to be overloaded by 100 skills, I don't know what you're thinking. I mean, if you're that kind of person who's like, no, I don't want it to be simplified like that, then you've got way too much time on your hands. I don't have time for that.
If there's 100 skills,
like,
if there's 100 skills that are actually meant to be used by the player, I hope there's a damn good comboing system built into it.
Mm.
That when I press 1, I press 1 again, and it's the second part of a combo I set up. I press 1 again, it's the third part of the combo I set up. If I press 1 and then 2, I break that combo and I start into the next combo using that, the other ability, or however it needs to work. Some way that I can actually chain through my abilities and have there be a reason for 100 abilities.
Right.
Casting fireball in all the different languages because each language has its own cooldown or whatever. I'd actually love to see that as a mechanic, and each fireball has its own different properties to it. The little fey fireball is like this teeny little thing and flies really fast. The ogre fireball just kind of erupts right in the middle of the person.
My face fireball is huge. She's like this big, and she will drop a comet in your head and one shot kill you. It's awesome.
In the chat, Serial is mentioned. I was thinking about it the whole time you were talking about the things you've noticed in Star Wars.
DCUO.
Because DCUO, I played a lot of DCUO, and I see a lot of parallels in their ability to, the way they've kind of taken whatever skills you get and they narrow it down to that, smaller bar of 8. And it's kind of interesting. I was actually in a long conversation with my editor at 10 Ton Hammer that was, we were talking about all kinds of different stuff. But, when it comes to SOE, they typically tend to prototype things they want to do in future games in current games. And I know one of the most recent additions to DCUO was the ability to cross, you could have combo weapons between different, stuff. It was basically almost like a multi-classing system to the weapons in DCUO. So you can kind of cross combo and build like that. So I look at that as being, a little mini prototype of cross-classing your character abilities in EverQuest Next, because, we know your weapons are going to be, stuck. You're going to have 2 different weapon types or sets, that you're going to have in your class, whatever your base class is. But those 4 character abilities you can multi-class. And I'm kind of thinking that DCUO is, a good prototype of what, maybe some action combat stuff they're going to try to achieve. Of course, DCUO is tab targets.
Well, take out the tab targeting, but the power interactions from DCUO and the left-click, right-click interactions with the weapons, I think is the stuff we're going to see. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the weapon that we have equipped for the class that we're using will have its own versions of the left and right click combinations and variations different than another class using that same weapon. So those will be other abilities that aren't on your 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those might be things that have their own alternate advancement too. So, there's more to the abilities that we have access to than just the 1 through 8 keys. And I think actually putting more of that on the left and right click really does help not only emphasize the fact that it's not a tab targeting game, you're actually using the abilities in real time, but it just opens up so much variation and so much opportunity to have almost Street Fighter like combinations available with a single weapon. Think of all the variation you get with M. Bison, for example. Well, that's just basically one weapon for us.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of how DCUO balances kind of both your hands, with having, your weapon attacks all on the mouse, and the way that they've actually, implemented combos in that. I think that's really huge because I mentioned it a long time ago, and I'm probably going to redo an article soon here about it, but the influence of MOBAs in that strategic landscape, and, there's really good hand balance in MOBAs where, especially like League of Legends, you've got, just your 4 abilities on one, and then you've got your mouse, the things you're clicking in the other. It's very balanced, and I would like to see MMOs kind of move towards that, because right now, like, MMOs are generally very keyboard heavy. You're not doing a lot with the mouse unless you're a clicker or somebody who's a mouse mover, which is not the way most people play, but some do. But I'd like to see more of that.
But here's the thing. Here's what I found when I started playing with DCUO. It's actually what made me go out and buy, an Xbox controller for the PC, because I found that trying to do those combos, because it really is almost Street Fighter-esque in its combo system. You got to boom, 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 boom. You got to pop these things off real quick. I didn't find it really comfortable or intuitive on a mouse and keyboard. But once I plugged the controller in and spent a day or two with it, I found it to be much easier and much more enjoyable to play. Um, but yeah, again, I think it's better game design to hone in on what a player has access to as opposed to throwing everything in the kitchen sink at them myself personally.
Right. I agree. A controller support for Landmark and Next. I hope that they'll plan on it at some point, but right
Definitely
now
couldn't use a controller for
it
like building, that's for sure.
well, maybe a
It,
PS4
I see them.
controller.
I see them doing that because their goal and full intent is to have both Landmark and EverQuest Next a
That's true.
cross-platform game. So I mean, I would see controller support being definitely in the
Mm.
books at some point, especially when they launch
Yeah,
the platform side.
easily.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, maybe. I mean, more I'm thinking about it, I suppose, I'm thinking of the fidelity you get, especially with building, that you need with the
Actually,
mouse.
there's some stuff that we don't have yet with Landmark that I really wish they would give us. It would make a lot more sense on the controller. When I'm trying to place something and I want to move it in one direction or one specific way, I don't want to have to click and drag a handle. I'd rather just be pressing like U, I, O, J, K, and L or something to move it in the 6 directions. Something like that to just be able to move one unit at a time. I'm much more familiar with that. I'm much more comfortable with that from my background in 3D modeling and animation. That's how we do it in a real program is you either enter a value or you can, just pick one axis and control it however you want. So I think that would really help a lot is, once they actually start having to go towards that, if some of those kind of controller considerations will come back to the keyboard and mouse users, because I want to be able to just incrementally move one unit right, one unit up, one unit forward, paste again, and keep doing that same sort of thing without having to set up some sort of custom crazy macro. That's just ridiculous. And their macro wouldn't even work because you have to base it on the mouse movement, and that it doesn't have any reliability right now. The same distance moving the mouse for one position movement can move it one voxel versus 4 voxels and on a different axis entirely. It's just kind of ridiculous. There was something that we were talking about a little bit earlier, and we kind of went over you there, Veluux, on the subject of multiple keys, using the F keys and all of that stuff. I wanted to kind of get your idea and your experience with having to use the big swath of keys in particular.
Uh, as far as past games go, like EverQuest and EverQuest 2, those games that I played, I was kind of the person where rather than having every skill at my disposal that I needed, and having a chaos of things, I would actually cut back on what I was going to use just to simplify my experience.
Yep.
And I wasn't actually maximizing my DPS and all that stuff, which wasn't a big deal to me because I wasn't a big raider. But I actually did that, and I don't know. I know a lot of people give grief about the EverQuest and EverQuest 2 UIs, but like I actually loved the EverQuest UI. Like the newest one where if you actually sit down for like 30 minutes or an hour and customize the crap out of it, it can be exactly what you need. And, you can port that same customized layout to any other character. So you basically kind of set it up once. Maybe you tweak it for each different character, but I really loved it. I've never had any issues with that. But, and it's kind of funny too, when you come from a game with that kind of a setup, you go into any other one, like I started, playing WoW again, and it's just like the UI is so simple compared to EverQuest. Like it's just so easy. I haven't ever had an MMO where like the UI has annoyed me after doing EverQuest because you just get used to something so heavy and complex. It's like everything else is cake.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be willing. I mean, that's the thing, even with MMOs, is you've got to be willing, to, especially if you've never played one before, you've got to be willing to know that you're going to suck for a month before you can even navigate and run in a straight line. And I've seen plenty of folks who have been like, I'll never be able to play this. A friend who never plays video games got pulled into playing WoW. And I was like floored. He had bothered to push through that learning curve. The hard thing for me when I started playing MMOs was being able to move and keep the camera level at the same time. Not be like, oh, what am I doing? And that takes a lot. I mean, it takes a lot of practice, and they're complex games. But yeah, once you push through it, it's amazing how second nature it becomes.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's I think of how long I've been playing Landmark, and then when I've jumped on some other games, like, wait a minute, actually any game, like I've played it for long enough, I'll jump on another game.
Dude.
I'll still go in games trying to do the jumping crouch slide
Yep.
from Warframe.
Grapple. I'm in EverQuest 2 constantly trying to I'm like, oh, there's the rock, and I will forget or just not think, and I will sit there and try and grapple my way up to, like, oh shit, I gotta go around the long way, don't I?
My first month playing like EverQuest, or not EverQuest, Edge of Space, because it's kind of like Terraria, but you have a jetpack instead of grappling. I kept reaching for that grappler and forgetting it was a jetpack, and then splat.
My big input issue is that I don't like to have to move my hands. Like, I want my left hand to be stationary, and all the keys I need to access in combat to be in that vicinity. I don't know if it comes from typing a lot, just my two hands are in the same place and I just, can reach everything. That's what I like. I don't like when games like make you extensively use like 7, 8, 9, 0 like that. I don't like it at all because I usually actually reach over with my mouse hand to hit those, and I just really don't like it. I prefer to be all
I've
central
gotten pretty
left
good
hand.
at stretching my hand, like holding W to move forward, or S to move back, or D to be moving in a circle, and reach over and be able to hit, 7, 8. I do that though. When I lay out my skills on the toolbar there, my most used stuff is there at the beginning, and 0 is always my heal button. Whatever my self heal is, my panic button is always 0. Because again, when I was back playing Star Wars Galaxies, that's just where my my hang on, here. There you go. Welcome, chat room.
I've actually gotten in the
I got in the habit of my panic button being there, and that's always where I stick it now whenever I go into another game.
Yeah. For me, it's I've started using Z, X, C, and V, as well as Q, E, R, and F. Just trying to have everything as tight to my hand as possible. If it's something that I need in immediate situations, and if it's not, put it somewhere else. If I need it,
Did anyone?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, did anyone ever play that like Battleground game by Westwood Studios, Nox? I don't know if anybody remembers Nox. It was like
No.
late '90s, early 2000s. Anyways, but that thing had the weirdest system ever. You use the mouse to move, kind of like you do in a MOBA, but you just use like ASD. There was a select thing there, and you had to use all the other key like Q and W to cycle up toolbars. If you were like a spellcaster, there was like 100 different spells, and you had to cycle through different bars with like Q and W. I mean, it was just nuts. And it's kind of funny because my brother, the reason I bring it up is my brother, he actually, when he plays like EverQuest and WoW games where you have a ton of skills, he got so used to doing that setup that he sets up his MMOs to be in that setup to where he's just, using that and cycling through, and he moves with his mouse exclusively. He moves his character with his mouse. He doesn't use WASD to move. Those are all his skill bar cyclers and stuff. It's ridiculous. But I mean, it makes it really good when you have to have, like, literally he's 2 clicks away from any skill in his entire thing, and his screen is empty, which is, it's like the best way you can do it, but like the learning curve on that is extreme. Like, I'm really for games like EverQuest Next moving to this smaller, much more condensed thing where you don't have to have that type of, because it's really like an advantage, like an advantage over somebody who hasn't spent the time into that. It's not going to have that combat edge.
I agree.
Yep, for sure.
Well, we should probably press on through some more of these blueprint notes if we want to finish that up tonight.
Yeah, that's kind of I was thinking like, well, we could get through them, or we could anticipate that they might not get things ready and we'll have another slow week next week. Oh no!
Probably. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
gotta kind of hedge a little bit, but if that ends up being the case, I'm sure we'll have discussion about like all the hype and stuff they do to keep us occupied for a moment. Yeah, the ESDF, tribes configuration. I thought about that too. That gives you Q, A, and Z a lot easier. But what the downside is, it's a lot harder to get to your tilde, tab, caps lock, shift, and control, which are also, it's a really nice range of keys to have access to.
It
So
feels so awkward too.
yeah, because it's like, what is that bump? Is my finger on the home row F? What the hell's going on here?
Well, yeah, that's just it. I mean, almost every game for the last 15, 20 years on a computer has used, well, since Doom really, has used the WASD keys to, be your movement in the
God.
world. So that would really throw me off if they're like, okay, now it's E, S, D, and F. Like, just moving it over one row would fuck me up so bad. It's not even funny.
Okay, original Mech Warrior for DOS. Does anybody remember? Was that WASD? I don't remember how I controlled that. It was
never played
years
it,
and
so I
years. It
don't
was
know.
like 20 years ago, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look that one up again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know a lot of people like those programmable mouse. The G13 or the Razer Naga has this array of buttons here that you can access, and that's
I find that hard to use, though.
well, it's a combination of hard to use, but it's also, I say that's a situation where you're putting your inability to design things in a concise way on the consumer to find their own solution, rather than for for people to be able to come in and play the game with standard default equipment and have a similar gameplay experience to somebody who does have a Nostromo and a Stinky Pad and all of those fancy devices.
Mm.
First game of WSD is Quake 1. I could see that. Definitely. So imbuing to kind of move along here.
Yes.
So
Alrighty.
they describe it as get an item, put it on the crafting table, make sweet. Oh wait, and massage its wait. Okay, no, it actually does say and massage its characteristics by imbuing the item with different abilities. So make love to the item on the imbuing table. No, I'm guessing it's almost kind of going to be like a web graph sort of thing that you're just trying to push the bounds all the way to the edges of the graph, or
Oh,
something where like maybe you adjust something here and it gets pulled in from somewhere else. Who knows? It sounds like a cool system, and I like that as a way, instead of how we have right now where you can only augment on the stats that you've crafted. If this is instead a way that you're able to readjust and potentially improve something, so the RNG for the ranges that something can be crafted with, you can actually push them all the way to the top. That would be great. I think that's fantastic. It sounded like, though, that's what the reinforcing system was, and that system would work at the moment you craft the item, not as a process that you do afterward. So I'm wondering if the reinforcing system, as they previously described it, has simply gone away, or if all of the previous labels they used have simply gone away and they're just going with a different system now.
From what
Yeah, I
I
mean, I'm
understood,
sure it evolves. Go ahead, Veluux. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, from what I understood, there was like the four components to the crafting 2.0, which was refining, salvaging, imbuing, and the basically the one where you can kind of like try to tweak what the base stats are. I can't
Reinforcing,
remember
yeah.
what that
Upgrading, yeah.
upgrading, yeah.
Which again really reminded me of Star Wars Galaxies and the final step of crafting in there. But yeah, I generally bring it up because that's why I loved it so much. Was of all the crafting systems I've seen in games, they really gave you as a crafter very fine control over what you were turning out at the very end there. If you used great resources, blah 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 blah. And when I saw them doing something very similar in Landmark, I got all giddy because I thought it was a wonderful system and really, really made crafting a lot of fun. So I've been enjoying the upgrading system. It just kind of sounds like they're fusing it. It's still the same idea. It's just being kind of renamed and upgraded a little bit. So I'm sure, like everything, the idea evolved behind the scenes as they were developing things.
Yeah, and honestly, if anybody's interested, I'm sure there are. I know there's still the emulated SWD servers out there. So if you really want to find out for yourself. The only other game I've seen that even tries to do something close to the full scale of the Star Wars Galaxy system is apparently what the plan is for the Tier 4 and Tier 5 range of crafting for Edge of Space, which I brought up earlier as a 2D sandbox, like Terraria in space with no grappling hooks and everything is badass. Um, that's basically Edge of Space.
I think to get the SWG emulation, you have to buy the base game, don't you, or something like that?
I don't know how you could do that.
All right,
really?
well, we'll go. Yeah,
we'll talk
yes,
about
there is
that later.
We'll talk about that after the show. But
Okay.
yes, there is a way, the emulator, but you do have to own a physical copy of the game in order to get
Gotcha.
in. Yeah.
I wonder if my beta discs work. I still have those.
It might, but anyway,
Yeah.
we're gonna go really down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And talk about that now.
Yeah. So, what about that? No, I'm never. I was about to make another Star Wars. I guess I cut myself off before I made the joke funny. So, never mind.
No problem.
Historical graphing for Player Studio. Yes, that
Now
would be
this
great.
is more of a, you're selling stuff in Player Studio. This just helps you show like what you're, how you've been doing.
What sells? How's it selling? Who
Gotcha.
potentially you can even they might have characteristics for the properties of the people that are buying. Like if somebody who's bought less than 10 things versus first time user versus bought 20 to 50 versus over 50. If somebody's bought over 50 things and they're constantly the people that you're seeing buying this stuff, I'm not going to say they're whales, but if there's some way you could actually find who they are and send them a message and be like, hey, I see you like my stuff. Is there anything you'd like to have me actually make for you? And, put on Player Studio? Because, a lot of potential opportunities can come out of that.
Well, do you get an email or something when you sell something on Player Studios that tells you
You
the
don't
name of the
get
player who
fuck
bought it?
all right now. You don't
Okay.
even know. You don't know that you've sold anything on Player Studio until you've sold $50 and gotten the quarterly check cut for you. Until then,
Wow.
maybe if
That's-
you email
that's
Storn,
bit-
you can get an answer.
Yeah.
But it was something they didn't really have too much monitoring and feedback on before, and they went into Landmark not having those. So I think actually Landmark is going to be the first game that will truly have those metrics for the Player Studio creators. I don't
Well,
remember for
here's the-
PlanetSide 2 any of the metrics showing up for my camo, for example.
Gotcha. Now here's what. Shoot, the thought just fell. Oh, it seems in the past in SOE games that Player Studio was a novelty more than anything else. You know what I mean? Well, at least to me. In EverQuest 2, people sell deco items. Like, they're not like, here's a new suit of armor. Like, they're not quite giving players, that kind of stuff. At least to me, it's always felt like it was kind of a novelty thing. Nice to have, kind of basically like a really long beta test for this idea over the last couple of years. And now in Landmark, it's like they're going all in on this idea of Player Studio and letting players be able to sell their creations. And like, it just seems like a bigger deal here now than it ever has been in any of the other games.
And it is, because this is the only time they've given us this direct access. Before, you'd submit an item, it would go through the art director, T-Ray, or whoever, and they would give the feedback on it, and that, if it was good enough, it would go in. Usually, they would kick it back and give you feedback on what things to improve about it before they feel it's ship-shape for the game. It's a completely different sort of thing with Landmark. For Landmark, you build something, all that needs to be checked is that you don't have swastikas somewhere that's visible in the screenshots, so the people that get to vote on it give a thumbs up. Other than that, there's really not much limit, no barrier of entry to get your stuff in. Zero. Other than getting your tax forms in and the station cache to list it. So it's available. Anybody, most people who are playing Landmark, most places in the world where Landmark is available, Player Studio is available now. So it really shouldn't be any problem for anybody. It's just getting your tax stuff filed.
Well, that's great. That's great that they're adding that into the game. Because you're right, it is important to. It's nice to know when you see like a new player buy something. But it is more important if you're, making money. This is important in the game world too as a crafter. to pay attention who's shopping at your shop. And if you do see someone who comes by all the time to pick up stuff, you know, it's nice to know that. You do want to occasionally like send an email, say, hey, I really appreciate that you go out of your way to come to my stupid little shop in the middle of the desert and blah, blah, or whatever you're doing, Um, I mean, it's an important thing. It's an important thing, to be able to identify who's spending money with you, especially in the real world where people are giving you real money,
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
let's see. So a couple of these next ones are really like, again, extensions of this idea of adding the progression in the world, adding adventure into the game. They're talking about the achievements. That's coming in, which really, I think most of our skill sets really are going to be based around hitting these hitting achievements and unlocking them.
Skills, I don't know that it's a skill set sort of thing. I think it's just things that'll expand your natural health, mana, armor, jump height,
Gotcha.
falling damage resistance, that sort of stuff. Things that you'll be able to do something enough through gameplay to improve. Now, I think there's also a range and a limit that they want. They don't want it to be the point where somebody who's achieved everything is like 3 times stronger than somebody who hasn't done anything. But I'm sure they want it to be something that's meaningful and measurable, that your combination of your experience and the achievements will make you twice as effective as a new player, not because you have double the attributes, but because you know how to access everything and do things more effectively, and you just you have that experience. But however things kind of get worked out with that, I'm excited to see how achievements do play into things, what we can earn for them, what kind of what kind of rewards we get for them beyond just titles or whatever, maybe piles of resources for completing them, because they've said this is definitely how we're going to do our character progressions. So to be able to
they say that, and the notes say that a little later on, that the health energy progression, ways for you to increase your health energy maximums through in-game effort.
That is achievements, basically.
Yeah.
Veluux.
Collectible templates, similar in nature to the way the collections pane works right now for resources. They will be collectible pages for many types of items. This works hand in hand with the achievements. Interesting.
Yeah. So
have not heard a lot of talk about this idea of unique templates.
It's something that's just weird to me. Like, what's so awesome, so amazing, and who made it that it gets to be this exclusive thing? That would have to be a real work of voxelmancy, a real master whatever that's been made, that maybe it's something that could potentially be selling on Player Studio, but they decided maybe instead they want to do it that way and just tell the player, hey, we're going to give you this special item, and instead of your thing going on Player Studio, we're just going to make it one of the achievement templates that you can find or something. No idea.
Here's a question. Now, the players who get picked, like, hey, we love this item, we want to add it into the game as this collectible template.
I don't know that it's players.
SOE?
I don't know that it's necessarily players who are doing it.
These might be built in-house. These might be a built in-house thing. Okay.
Potentially. But if there is, then they'll definitely have some compensation for players. So, these last two things here, the achievements and the collectible templates, I want to definitely get some more thoughts from the top row here. So, Veluux, either one, any thoughts?
I've never really been huge on achievements in games like, I don't know, EverQuest, World of Warcraft.
I'm with you.
Now that
I'm with you.
Yeah, it's not something that is big to me. Like, for me, really, when it comes to an MMO, I come in to explore the world. See the crazy new world, make a character that I can get attached to, and then play with friends or meet new people and really enjoy the social elements of the game. To me, the achievements is like totally an afterthought. Like, if I happen to get one, I'm like, oh, cool, but it's not even something I even get excited about when it happens. For me, it's not a big thing. I mean, if they find ways to actually incorporate achievements to be a little bit more meaningful, then maybe it would resonate with me a little more. But right now, like the way achievements have been done in MMOs, if they're not really departing from that typical format, then I don't really see it being super, super up my alley.
Here's the achievement system I hate more than anything. As much as fun as I had leveling in Old Republic, their achievement system is the worst thing ever. It is literally go here, kill 1,000 of those things. Go here, kill 10,000. You know, like it is go do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again until you're cross-eyed. I hate that shit. That is lazy game design.
Yeah.
So
that
I'm
is.
really hoping that their achievement system will be a little more. Did you find the special tree we hid on this
Yeah.
island? You know, like I hope it's a little more creative than. Have you cut down 10,000 trees yet? You know, like I don't need
Well,
that shit.
I think
That's
not
not
it's
anything I'm interested in.
I think it's being done as a strong alternative to a traditional experience and leveling system. It's really hard to have a horizontal progression when you do stuff, you do stuff, you do stuff, and then all of a sudden your muscles bulge out like Popeye. Your brain gets bigger like an erudite. You know, you become more well endowed or whatever. And it's like, aha! I have gotten a level up. That just never made any sense to me. Instead, it makes a lot more sense that the things that you're actually doing, the things that you're actively engaging in, will eventually lead to various types of rewards. There might be a lot of things overlapping, like cut down 100 trees might be one of them, or cut down one tree in every biome might be another one. There might be one that's just, get a certain amount of the rare heartwood from trees, regardless of how much you cut down. So there might be a lot of things where they'll overlap, and you might not necessarily get all of them at once, but the more you do it, you might have a lot of progress towards something that you finally look. It's like, man, I got to get my health up. What kind of achievements can I, strive for to complete that I've got access towards, or that I've got progress towards? And you look, and it's like, oh crap, I can chop down 5 trees, mine like 200 rock, and kick a wisp in the face, and that will get me like 300 more health and more inventory space for my building materials. Well, yeah, I'm about to go do that right now.
Yeah.
For me, the type of achievements that I would find, valuable would be, because I know what they want to do with this, being a free-to-play game, and they want to have a microtransaction store, to some degree.
Got to make money somehow. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and what I see, like Riot Games did a great job of, you can't pay to win. There's no pay to win, but you're buying aesthetics, and people, that their aesthetics are good, so people are, actually spending money on that to support the game. It's been wildly successful. Now, for a game, in an MMO type game, it's a little bit different. I see a lot of monetary stuff, being those aesthetics and things. But if there was a way for achievements to tie into that, where like, somebody who's a free to play player that's not really spending as much money, if you created achievements, some of these long time investment type things tied into the aesthetics in the game, then I could see these being types of things that I would actually spend time doing and work towards. But if they're just, the cookie cutter, kill X number of these, or you've done this X number of times, woohoo, we're gonna throw you some balloons and some confetti and call it a day. Those are, I don't know. But I really would like to see achievements tied to aesthetics. That would be cool. A cool way for players to get a chance to unlock things that would normally be in a pay barrier.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Always go ahead, Krem.
For me, like the old Republic achievements, those are terrible, obviously. The achievements that I like to are the WoW achievements.
Very grindy.
Because I played WoW. I've played WoW since it's come out, off and on. But if I know that we all get into places where we go, okay, I want to play this game today. Let's say it's WoW. I want to play WoW today. You get on and you're like, well, now what do I want to do? So you don't really have anything to do. Your friends aren't on. Your raid starts in 4 hours, but you have this chance to play and you want to play. So, you look at the achievements. Well, what can I do? Oh, well, this sounds fun. Let me go do that. That's how I use it. I never am like an achievement grinder where I just want all the achievement points no matter what it is. It's just basically something telling you this is something to do in the game and I haven't done it yet. So why don't I just go do this? Because that sounds like fun. That's what achievements are to me, or at least having a list of things that you can do in the game. That's basically all it is.
Yeah, you know, Vindictus actually is one I want to bring up as an example because that was a game that had, you know, your standard character leveling and of course the equipment grind, and also this the shadow form that you could level up, and that'd be some other progression. There may be some other things you could progress, but the achievements you would have to go out of your way to do those, and some of them were a little bit tougher to do. But the rewards for them, they would stick with you, and not only be a title that comes with each one, but there'd also be a minor attribute increase. Like you've got 1,000 health or whatever, maybe it gives you like 50 or 100 extra health, which in a couple levels isn't going to mean that much, but it's a little bit. And it's just little bits here and there that make your character more powerful. I don't know that anybody necessarily has all of the achievements. There probably are some folks who do, but that doesn't mean that not having any of those achievements will ruin your gameplay experience. You can go in just fine without them. Some of them are actually really fun, like kick 100 spiders. That's hilarious because the kick is like almost like a secondary sort of attack that's really not meant to be used most of the time. But here you are kicking over a bunch of spiders because that's what you need to do for like an extra 10 strength or some health or something. Yeah. So yeah, hell yeah, do it. Whenever you see spiders, just do it, or go to one of the earlier levels where there's spiders. And that's one of the other things. If it's an achievement that's kind of pan-region, that it's just kill 1,000 of anything, just do it in the earlier areas if you want to grind it out. Otherwise, don't grind it, and you'll kill 1,000 things over the course of the game anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll find out very soon. Beginning of the year. Hopefully that'll be implemented, and we'll know.
Yep.
We're gonna have to move along quick because I know that Veluux has to take off right at the hour. So, let's see. Prop destruction apparently is coming in January. So I presume this is just for those who set their claim as a battlefield. If you're just a builder, no one's gonna be able to come over and destroy your shit.
Well,
but if you've got a battle zone,
open world too. If I want to, if there's a tree in the way and I don't have an axe and I just need to smash it down, I just smash it down. If there's like let's say some sort of prop that you can destroy and have it explode, and there's just some plant that exists throughout the world, well, hell, I'm gonna shoot arrows at that thing and use it as a trap. So there's
it plays into it a lot too. Once when you figure once you start getting the AI and the scripting, like we may see some of that stuff start to come in this month and then into January. It'll be an interesting way to be placing, creating environments in your thing where people, because if you set up your claim, people aren't necessarily, if it's not PvP, people aren't going to be able to destroy the environment on your claim. But say you give them the ability to destroy props, when advanced permissions come along, then you can set up like doorways and different things, and you can kind of like script or guide people through an experience. So I see that playing a role in that area a little bit.
Yeah. And I guess when we find the team up claims underground, if you want to smash them to oblivion, being able to do that's nice.
Yeah.
Because I guess this is the first time we'll actually have props that are disconnected from claims that would normally only be placed on claims. Torches, there's no open world torches. Now there will be because of the cavern stuff. So it's kind of a necessity to have the destructible props, so that we'll be able to not just mine out all of whatever resource we find there, but also be able to smash up all the props and be like, full destruction.
I can already see the problem. Like you'll have problem, but I'll see the cries of noob as you bring a group in to go mining in a cave, and the new guy's just destroying everything in sight and keeps taking out the torches. Like, asshole, stop taking up the torches. We need those.
Yeah. Oh, that's gonna be funny. I wonder if they're gonna put like little scaffolding and stuff like that in the caves, like just things that show that people had maybe tried to mine there in the past. And actually, that's something I should have done as a team up build. Whoops, next time. So I think we kind of covered those subjects. We already talked about energy health progression.
Yep.
We just, prop destruction. Any last thoughts on prop destruction?
No.
Didn't think so.
We'll see how it's implemented after it comes. When we know more info about it, it'll be easier to kind of deep dive on
It's
that.
pretty self-explanatory, I think, at this point. New environments, deciduous, volcano, and ocean. So we talked about those a little bit earlier. Deciduous, that is the final tier of forest we do not have access to. So that'll allow us to actually make the top-end Crafting instructions. I'm hearing keyboard a lot, by the way. I think that's you, Krem.
Yeah, I think Kremchek is writing his next great American novel during the show.
Maybe I'm taking notes.
Maybe you are taking notes. That's a good idea.
There you go.
So the
Just don't ask me to show them to you.
yeah, deciduous. That'll be nice. I think that was that the birch trees? I can't remember. I think so.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's
I don't even know what
the
deciduous
style
means.
that they had.
Yeah.
I think the early landmark screenshots they had before they released alpha were in that biome.
I remember Era Gaming. She was freaking out about, oh my God, deciduous forest! I love birch trees. So, yeah, I think she'll probably make a comeback. We'll see with
I'm very.
those trees.
I think everyone's waiting for volcanic. That's what I think.
No, nobody cares about volcanic. Actually, there was the statement that I think
Warm.
Dave put out, if I'm not mistaken, that you're not going to like lava. Like, it's going to be a non-fun.
Oh, it's going to be a pain in the ass, man. It's going to be, again, Star Wars Galaxies. They had Mustafar in the game. Lava was a pain in your ass. It would really fuck with your ability to get across the planet sometimes.
Nice.
It really would. It really would. There
Yeah,
were only
no.
like 2 vehicles that allowed you to actually fly over lava. The rest, like, you'd get halfway across and you'd burn to death. It was so funny.
That's awesome.
I'm excited just to have that, lava storm with caves and start going all out with
Absolutely.
some Neriac,
Yeah.
Dark Elf style
Yeah.
builds.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be weird having volcanic stuff, but no actual flowing lava. So dynamic lava is
Yeah,
something
we'll
else
get
that'll
it,
be
yeah.
exciting. Actually,
Yeah,
having
no,
lava
absolutely.
flows.
Let's see, large humans. So again, a step in that direction of giving people a little more variety with their characters. And I'm sure, like, once EverQuest Next is closer to open beta, you'll see some of those races probably injected into the game. I'm sure we'll, as time goes on, we'll see more variety. But for right now, it's just humans. But yeah, larger humans. I mean, I'm happy with the human I have right now, so that's not a huge deal to me. And the renaming system, they're going to let everybody, a lot of MMOs are doing this these days where, you can use whatever name you want, and then you'll have like period, whatever your account name is, or at whatever your account name is, so that when you're in the world, your character will have the name you want without you being, like ATOM gets taken immediately. Like, it's hard to grab, for example. It'll be, if someone else grabs it, I'll still be able to grab it and have that in the game world without it being a big deal. So I like that. I like that.
I hate it.
You get used to it. I mean, the only time you're ever aware of the master name on the account is when you're first adding someone to your friends list or starting an initial tell sometimes.
Actually, I don't know, because I don't know how Player Studio and the gallery and all of that is going to work. If people can change the names all willy-nilly, I search for Neurotoxin on the gallery, and there's 100 people with the name Neurotoxin. It's going to be impossible for people to sort through them. So I think it's going to be, in a lot of places where business and official stuff is involved, you'll most likely be locked to your the true name rather than the.
Yeah, your account name will stay. You've got to go through hoops in order to get your account name changed. Now, I think they've said, like, right now, if your master account name, like, for all of my sewing games, is, I have a name on that account that I'm not going to say. If it turns out to be your name, your first and last name or something like that, and you need that change because for privacy purposes, customer service will do that in a heartbeat. That's legit.
Yeah.
But if you're like, I just don't like my name and I want to now be, whatever, they're usually not going to do that for you. You're kind of locked into whatever your account name is. It worked fine in Star Trek Online. I never had a problem with it. It was never confusing. In chat, you would see people's at handles, Adam at blah, blah, whatever it was, but in the game world, when you saw the names over people's heads, it was just whatever the first name of that character was.
Well, as long as it's not showing everywhere, then I guess it's fine.
I think, honestly, the main purpose for why I see them giving it to us is for role-playing. If you want to put on a stage performance, you run off stage, you change your attire, you switch to a different head profile or whatever, and you change your name to whatever character you're going to run on scene as next. Just as an example. That was the
Well,
first thing that I thought of with
I
it.
wonder. I don't think they're going to let you change your characters' names willy nilly. I mean, you might. It'll probably be one of those things of they're going to give us like a freebie at the reset probably and all of that, and you may have one reset, but I'm sure that if you're going to change your name, your character's name, that'll be $5 or $10 in the cash store, please. And then you can change your name.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
there's
that's the same way I see it. It's going to be locked in. Your whatever character you make, they're going to be locked in with that name. That's totally, there can be replication, of that as many. There could be 100 Bobs on the server if that's what they want.
Yeah,
But
yeah, they use the Bob example. Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
like
yeah, it'll be
Marinette Play is
covered.
saying Star Trek Online, was an account handle which didn't match your login name exactly, and they strongly encouraged you not to have your account handle match your login name. So, yeah, it worked very well in Star Trek Online. Too bad the game didn't have richer content. They did a lot of things right, but didn't keep me interested in the long run, sadly. But I think that's about it on the blueprint, right? Hang on, let me roll down. That's
yeah.
to be determined.
The
To be
rest is
determined.
yep,
So mystery stuff they're not going to tell us about right now.
like dynamic
I
water.
I
Yeah.
honestly think that races will play into a part. They have the large humans coming, but I'm pretty sure because for anybody that's familiar with game design, one of the most artist intensive heavy things is
Mhm.
character models and rigging. So anytime you're gonna make a character model and go to all the work to rig it, especially now they have SO with all that extra facial stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I don't see them like making unique races for
Do
Landmark.
anything too crazy? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I expect them because of all the work they're putting into the EverQuest Next races. I would expect that they're going to take some of those and inject them into Landmark at some point, just because you're going to be as long as they might like limit or restrict the character create options to where it'll make it more generic or different for Landmark, but they definitely have the ability to make it not feel EverQuest Nexty, but still take all that
Yeah.
hard work and put it into Landmark to
And
test
yeah,
things,
purpose it in
all that.
some way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's very strange. Here we are approaching the end of the year. The game's been out for almost a year in beta. It's gone through so many iterations. It's been
Well,
fantastic to be
38
a part of.
weeks. It has been literally
Yeah.
38 weeks in beta, and it was another, was it 8 or 9 weeks, I believe, in alpha before that. So yeah,
Well,
it's
I'm sorry. I
yeah.
was thinking of alpha as well as part of the process, but it's been a lot of fun to be involved. Again, as someone who was around and played for a long time in Star Wars Galaxies, I was there when they bent me over and raped me without even buying me dinner when they changed the game and all, the whole game experience stuff. And there wasn't, the whole player population was like, what the fuck? Don't do this or we will bail, and they ignored him and they bailed. It was a class. It is still held up as the biggest fuck up in MMO history. They've learned a thing or two since then, and to go from that to where we are now in their development process, it's kind of cool. Like it's really cool to be able to interact, know that the developers are listening. They may not always take every suggestion you have, but it's been really,
Yeah.
really enjoyable. So.
It is cool. Yeah.
But like I said, I know Veluux has to get out of here right at the hour, so we
Yep.
should probably start wrapping up and let him promote what he's doing and all that fun stuff.
Yep.
Just the same old stuff for me, 10-ton hammer stuff and EQ hammer. Yeah, just keep checking there. I've got regular columns on both of those, and other than that, I mean, we do our Theory Forge Friday nights every week, 5:30 Pacific, and other than that, nothing else really. For me.
Yep. Kremmy, how about you?
Yeah, look down here. That's what you want to do. Not all the way down to Neural, but in between Neural and me. Yeah. Look at that stuff. Follow that stuff. That's cool. And Orange Dwarf. And yeah, Neural's going to be on my show Friday. If you guys didn't know, it's going to be Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And it is Lifestyles of the Twitch and Famous, where we
Oh,
interview
that's cute.
Twitch streamers, and Neural is going to be the guest, so that's going to be cool. So come out for that,
Mm.
and otherwise come out for everything else that I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very
It's all
cool.
sorts of stuff.
Orange
Very-
Dwarf.
Fun stuff going on, and if you're trying to get to SOE Live or was it PAX Prime, I believe, then
Yeah, SOE Live or PAX Prime.
yeah, follow
Yeah, you give
follow
away some
Kremchek
crazy-
and
Yeah, you give away some crazy things. I've noticed that.
yeah,
Like
Yeah, so
they ain't no
SOE
small
Live
time
or-
prizes.
yeah. He's
SOE
got it.
Live or PAX Prime, and we have 113 followers left to get to that goal by Christmas, and we'll be giving out a ticket to either one of
Nice.
I
those,
think
where you'll
yeah,
meet
guys,
me
hit that
and
follow
possibly
button.
Neuro.
Hit that follow
people.
button. Hit that follow
Hell
button
yeah.
on Kremchek.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Do it. Get over there.
Do it.
And of course, after this, I don't think I've got another stream tonight, but oftentimes got the Who's Gaming Now stuff coming. Usually, the 8 to 10 show when we do them during the week, I'm usually on for those, either hosting or joining along with stuff and all sorts of indie games and stuff that we do there. That's me, Kremchek, and Nolbro. It's a lot of fun times, and we hit up a little bit of everything. I actually did a couple landmark episodes a little while back, and probably going to do one again here coming up pretty soon once all these features come in. But aside from that, there's I'm going to be on Lifestyles and the Twitch and Famous on Friday. There's Theory Forge on Friday from 5:30 to 7. I believe it's going to be on my channel this week, so that's the place to be. And the Content and Creation Show on Sundays from 1 to 5 p.m. Pacific time, followed by the Evercast Show, which I would shout out Chuina, but he went to go get tequila and he disappeared, so I think he just chugged the bottle.
There you go.
All right, and how
Just
about
click
you?
all the buttons, guys.
Yeah. How about you, Adam?
Let's see. Twitter, my AT0MXII, it's lead spelling for Adam12. Also, my website has just been kind of re-obtained by me. It was sitting on someone else's server. It's now up again. I'm in the process of revamping it, getting it ready, but my new podcast is going to show up there. When info about my book is ready, it's going to be out there, all that fun stuff. Check out my YouTube channel, same thing. It's all under the same handle. So at this point, if you Google just that, it should all pop up. But real quick, again, I just want to mention my family up and bailed on us, didn't give us a lot of notice, did not have a lot of heads up. And I have distilled my entire life down to a suitcase and a backpack in about 4 small cardboard boxes. I'm going to LA at the end of the month, and I have saved money, but as I do more homework, I'm beginning to realize I'm going to hemorrhage that real quick, and I'm going to have to pay basically for a hotel or an extended stay or go try and room with some strangers. But no matter what the case, I need money. So at the suggestion of some friends, I put up a GoFundMe, and I'm going to drop that in the looks like Creme Cereal's already beaten me to it. I appreciate it. Any little bit will help. I hate to put my hand out and be like, hey, help me pay for a hotel, but if I'm going to be able to continue to podcast and do this show and other things over the next month, any support that you guys could give or at least retweet or share or whatever would certainly be helpful. But there you go. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. And that is time to wrap up, everybody. Thank you very much, and we will see you later. And I will bring this party somewhere else after we wrap up, but just stick around for that. See y'all then.